The continent's electoral bodies are converging at the African Union's headquarters in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, for a two-day validation workshop. The General Assembly of the Association of African Electoral Authorities has mandated the IEC to implement resolutions and guidelines for safeguarding electoral integrity in the digital age, as well as coming up with strategies for combating digital disinformation. SABC News reporter Natasha Phiri has more.
Thank you so much to the SA Today team, who's still bringing you a rolling coverage here out of Ethiopia, which of course you would know is now or will be a BRICS member country starting from the 1st of January next year. And of course, we've seen 15 electoral management bodies convening here at the African Union. And of course, the bone of contention, the topic here coming out of these discussions is safeguarding electoral integrity in a digital age, and as well as the guidelines and principles for the use of digital and social media in elections South Africa. Now, we've seen various inputs from those electoral management bodies from various countries, but let's just take this conversation to the IEC, which is facilitating this process. And of course, I'm joined by the CEO of the IEC, Mr. Sai Mamabolo. Mr. Mamabolo, thank you so much for joining us on SABC News.
Thank you very much, and greetings to everyone back home.
So in terms of the adoption of these guidelines, how is that going to happen?
Well, we're having a validation meeting here, basically to say that we are on the right course and giving everybody, all EMBs on the continent, an opportunity to give their comments and make submissions. And 90% of election management bodies on the continent have in fact made submissions. So after the process today, having had all the views expressed, we will integrate those into the protocol document, the guidelines and the principles. And we will go to the General Assembly of the AAEA, which is the Association of African Electoral Authorities, where it will be adopted. It is our hope, certainly as South Africa, that the document will be a formal protocol of the African Union to have a more stricter status, to have a more binding status, as it were, in the continent. But we see that as the next phase of the process. In the immediate, it's a persuasive document and therefore non-binding.
I like the fact that you actually mentioned, the binding factor, and I was actually going to ask about that. But I mean, how do you ensure that governments actually, adopt these guidelines?
Well, there's going to have to be political diplomacy, which is why we've partnered with DECO so that they manage the political side of the process. On our side, as an election management body, is to manage the content and ensure that we carry with us on this journey all the election management bodies on the continent. But we've got to be careful not to chew too much at the beginning. We've got to deal with this thing in a phased way. Firstly, let's get it approved by the Association of African Electoral Authorities, and once so approved, then place it firmly on the agenda of the African Union and to be driven politically by DECO.
So do you think that, EMBs should be given more power in this regard then?
Well, EMBs already have regulatory competence insofar as issuing codes of conduct and instruments such as those. And I think we'll have to be very creative in navigating how we use that competence to ensure that we bring elements from these guidelines. The idea initially is not that every country will domesticate every word and paragraph of the document, but the idea is to choose those things that may be relevant in a national context and implement those first, and then over time then implement the rest of the document.
How important is this workshop, seeing that, next year, I know South Africans, we'd be heading to the polls, but this includes 19 other countries on the African continent?
Crucial. It is our intention that as part of socializing the guidelines and the principles, we may need to convene all those 20 countries who are going to be having elections next year and ensure that each one of them emerge from a workshop with an implementation plan for purposes of their elections that they're going to be conducting next year. We do think that it's important to give life to the document by convening all those 20 countries on the continents which are going to be having elections in 2024.
Some EMPs that were represented are from the SADC region. Is Zimbabwe also part of them? Have there been any conversations with the electoral body that side?
The report that was given by the Electoral Commission's Forum of SADC countries represents all countries in SADC, including Zimbabwe. Fortunately, I was in a meeting together with our colleagues in Zimbabwe where we discussed the document, and the report that was presented here, it's a product of those discussions. Zimbabwe participated fully, and they are alive to this process.
And then just lastly, what does this mean for the IEC? I mean, coming here to the AU, all these other electoral bodies hold the IEC in high esteem. You know, you're the secretariat of the of the AAEA, and you're also chair of AWEB. What does this mean for our electoral body in South Africa?
Well, South Africa has done well. And the IEC in particular is held in high esteem, as you heard during the submissions. But I think we can do a lot more to help, especially on the African continent. And this is one such endeavor to ensure that we help the continent, because South Africa cannot be an island of success. We've got to succeed together with the continent. If there's any untoward electoral experience on the continent, it's a blight on all of us.
Mr. Mamabula, thank you so much for your time. We will catch up with you later on. Okay, thank you. That was, of course, Sai Mamabula, the CEO of the IEC in South Africa. Really interesting conversations coming out, of this 2-day validation workshop. Of course, various more inputs will be made in regards to this all-important topic. And of course, as SABC News, we continue to bring you live updates of this workshop here in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia.